Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're trying something a bit different. We've got this detailed summary from the Hindu, dated July 21st, 2025, and our mission really is to sift through it. We want to cut through the noise, find those important nuggets, those surprising facts, and we'll have a good chat about it to get you genuinely well informed. And it's quite a list today. We're talking global diplomacy, environmental stuff, huge legal reforms, space tech, economics, even some big societal debates.
Exactly. And the idea isn't just to, read out the headlines. We want to dig into what this all actually means. Why does it matter? And maybe see how these different pieces, which might seem separate, actually fit together into the bigger picture of India and the world. So as we go, maybe think about what connections jump out at you.
Okay, let's get started then. First up, India's Strategic Balancing Act, global stage stuff. The summary really flagged the Prime Minister's visit to Russia. Talks on energy, defense, and space collaboration, too. What's the significance here, especially with India sticking to its neutral stance on Ukraine?
Well, it's quite fascinating, isn't it? This isn't just about short-term deals. It's clearly about strengthening India's strategic autonomy. In this multipolar world we keep talking about, staying neutral on Ukraine while deepening ties, especially high-tech ones like with Roscosmos for Gaganyaan. That's sophisticated diplomacy. It shows India safeguarding its own interests, which fits right into their Act East policy and, of course, energy security needs. It's very pragmatic.
Right, pragmatic is a good word for it. Okay, so from geopolitics, let's pivot to another global challenge, climate finance. There was an editorial mention focusing on how developing nations, India included, are really underfunded for climate action. Mitigation, adaptation, all of it.
And that editorial hit on a key point. That $100 billion a year pledge from developed countries. Still falling short. It called for, pretty significant reforms in the big financial institutions, the multilateral ones. But it also highlighted India's leadership role, didn't it? Things like the Life Movement, the G20 presidency, pushing for a fairer setup. The core issue is this persistent imbalance, and India's been very vocal trying to drive change there.
Yeah, that imbalance seems like a recurring theme. Okay, let's bring it home now. Some really big changes happening within India. These new criminal law codes are now officially implemented. The Bharatiya Sanhita, Sakshat Niyam, Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita. That's a massive overhaul, replacing the old IPC, CRPC, Evidence Act, colonial era laws gone. What do you see as the single most transformative part of this for the average person?
That's a tough one. There's a lot. But I think it's the deliberate shift in focus. Towards victim rights, number one. Then there's the push for digitized evidence, handling things electronically, and aiming for time-bound trials. Plus, things like community service as an option. It really represents moving from that old colonial structure to something hopefully more modern, faster, and more victim-centric. Of course, the huge challenge now is actually making it work on the ground, implementation.
Yeah, right. Implementation is always the key, isn't it? Okay, sticking with governance, checks and balances. The Supreme Court apparently observed some delays in Lokpal appointments. What's the context there?
Yes, the source noted the Supreme Court criticized the center for, undue delay in appointing members to the Lokpal being the anti-corruption ombudsman. So this observation, this criticism, it really underscores how important independent institutions are for tackling corruption effectively. It sort of highlights that ongoing, sometimes tense relationship between different branches of government and the judiciary stepping in to, try and uphold that institutional independence needed for good governance.
Interesting point about that tension. Okay, let's blast off now. From the courtroom to space, ISRO's had a big success, testing their next-gen CE-20 cryogenic engine. What does this unlock for India's space program?
Oh, this is definitely crucial. Absolutely vital for their bigger ambitions. We're talking about the heavy lift rockets, the GSLV Mk-3 missions. Those are needed for things like Gaganyaan, the human spaceflight program, and the future Chandrayaan missions to the moon, maybe even beyond. It's a clear sign that India's own, indigenous space tech is really advancing. It opens up possibilities for much more ambitious missions further out.
Wow. So bigger rockets, bigger missions, basically. Okay, let's bring it back down to earth again. The economy. RBI's Monetary Policy Committee. They've signaled a neutral stance, kept the repo rate at 6.5%, no change. Why?
Yeah, the reasoning they gave was basically mixed signals on inflation. Things aren't clear-cut. So the focus seems to be on gradual disinflation, bringing inflation down slowly, also supporting the recovery in rural demand, and just generally being cautious with liquidity, the money supply in the system. It's that typical central bank balancing act, isn't it? Trying to manage inflation without stalling growth.
Right, always a balancing act. But while the RBI manages the rates, there are ground realities affecting the economy too, like this next point on agriculture. Kharif sowing is apparently below normal because the monsoon's been patchy.
That's right. The data showed Kharif crop sowing, that's the monsoon season planting, is trailing last year by about 12%. And the main reason cited is, erratic monsoons. Dry spells, especially hitting eastern India hard. You're seeing noticeable drops in key crops, paddy, pulses, oil seeds. It just directly shows how climate patterns hit food security and farm output. Highlights the vulnerability, really.
Yeah, that vulnerability is stark. Okay, shifting focus again. Let's look at crime trends. The NCRB National Crime Records Bureau released its 2024 stats. Key points seem to be a 7% jump in cybercrime. But interestingly, a 5% drop in violent crimes. What do you make of that?
That cybercrime figure definitely jumps out. A 7% increase is quite significant. The report also mentioned, didn't it, that states like Maharashtra and Karnataka had high numbers for financial fraud online, so there are regional hotspots. And the trends for women's safety were apparently mixed. Not a simple picture there. It suggests, an evolving crime landscape. Maybe traditional violent crime is easing slightly, but these digital threats, they're clearly surging. A whole new challenge.
A big challenge indeed. Okay, now for a really complex one, the Uniform Civil Code, the UCC. The debate around it has intensified, and public consultations on the bill are back on. What are the main angles here, based on the source?
Well, your article touched on several really sensitive dimensions. You've got the angle of gender justice, how it might impact women's rights. Then there's the aspect of minority rights and how different communities might be affected. And it also brings in constitutional morality, particularly Article 44, which talks about striving for a UCC. It's that fundamental tension, isn't it, between pushing for, say, gender equality across the board versus preserving distinct community identities and personal laws. It's a really layered debate with deep roots, and these consultations are trying to navigate all those different viewpoints. Very tricky stuff.
Extremely tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to something that sounds quite positive. Healthcare innovation. AIIMS has launched a national organ registry, a central digital system for organ transplants. How significant is this?
Oh, potentially very significant. The main goals are boosting transparency, making the process clearer, and cutting down those agonizingly long wait times for organs. By having a central digital registry, it allows for real-time sharing of information about available organs across regions, and it enables better priority-based matching. It's a really good example of e-governance, using digital platforms to fix a critical bottleneck in public health. Could save a lot of lives.
That sounds like a definite step forward. All right, let's wrap up our dive today with something more philosophical, perhaps. Ethical leadership. The source mentioned the president's speech on public service motivation, emphasizing public service as SOA, service, not SATA, power. What's the core message?
It's a powerful message. She highlighted values like compassion, efficiency, selflessness as being central to bureaucracy, to public service. The underlying idea is a call for leaders, for officials, to see their roles not as positions of authority to exert power from, but as a genuine opportunity, a duty almost, to serve the people with integrity, prioritizing citizen well-being. That concept of SOA really goes to the heart of what democratic governance should aspire to be, ethically speaking.
A very profound point to end on.
It really has been an incredible range today, hasn't it? From, global strategy and space shots down to legal codes and ethics. It really shows how all these different news items, they're not isolated. They connect. They shape our understanding of what's happening.
Exactly. And that's what we hope you get from this deep dive. A way to see those connections, understand the bigger picture beyond just the daily facts. Being well-informed isn't just knowing things. It's about putting the pieces together. So here's a final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. In this flood of daily information, how do these individual updates, these small shifts, actually steer the larger direction of countries, of societies? Keep exploring, keep asking questions, stay curious. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.